Hi, everybody. I'm here with Jeff Pohl, and we are going to be talking a little bit about a subject that I think you'll find quite interesting. So, Jeff, first of all, give us a quick introduction to you.
Hi everyone, I'm Jeff, founder CEO of Warden AI. I spent the last decade in working in AI systems as an engineer and as a product person, particularly at Onfido, and in regulatory technology. And so that's my background to this topic.
Right, great. Let's talk about the background to why you've created Warden AI. Like, what is it? What's going on that needs a solution?
Yeah, and we focus particularly on HR space, HR tech. And so, as we're all aware, there's a growing number of AI tools and products that help in employment, whether that's candidate screening to, virtual assistant chatbots that talk about employee issues. And businesses are like really interested in adopting and applying that technology to get the kind of economic benefits, but they're also increasingly concerned about the risks that come with that. So those risks can be anything from the data, data that's used to train the models, or that might come out of the models in some way, to particularly in employment and HR, to bias and fairness and any potential discrimination, which of course can have fines. There's regulations that are coming in place to, on top of those that already exist, to govern the use of AI, particularly in relation to discrimination. And that's putting a lot of pressure on governance teams and legal teams and others to not mess us up, which holds them back in some cases from adopting these AI solutions and deploying them in a widespread way to their customer base, their user base.
Right. What's the trend? What's the trend in terms of like who's taking this really seriously right now? Like which are the specific countries or specific industries, or what's going on?
Yeah. So obviously there's the EU AI Act, which many will have heard of, which is now in law but coming into effect in a couple of years, which applies to the EU, but it's so far-reaching that it kind of has a global impact. So many people are preparing for that. The US as well is particularly focused on this issue. I would say that because of probably historic discrimination issues in the US, a lot of state legislators, such as in New York City, have either already or about to put in place specific regulation about often just employment or about related discrimination topics in the absence of federal regulation. So a lot happening in the US actually.
Right. Okay then. So HR technology companies need to be particularly concerned about this issue. Do end users need to be concerned, like the employers, the recruitment teams and the HR teams, they need to be interested as well?
Yes, yeah, because when you think about an AI system, it's always customized some way when it's deployed. When it's a platform itself has an AI that generally works a certain way, we can help look at that and make sure it's okay. And then it's deployed in a real world scenario with usually customized settings, maybe even custom training in the model, with real people, real job descriptions or whatever the use case is. And that's where actually risks like bias manifest and affect people. And so that's the crux of it. And what's interesting is that the regulators, particularly in the US, are increasingly putting the onus on not the platform, but the end employer who deploys the solution to make sure they have appropriate governance in place, that their particular implementation isn't leading to discriminatory outcomes. And that's the case of one of the regulations that's out there in the States and a number of others that are coming. So definitely both parties need to be conscious of this.
So what do you think is going to happen? Are they going to get like GDPR style percentage of revenue fines and things like that for breaking it?
Yeah, definitely. So the one, like I said, one hard regulation in place at the moment is in New York City, which basically mandates that any employer that has a kind of AI-driven recruitment tool, hiring tool, is liable for fines if they don't do annual bias audits with it. And there's some ambiguity in the exact interpretation of the law as to whether it's just the vendor that has to do the audit, which is often the case at the moment. But the actual literal reading of the law is that it's the employer themselves has to audit this. And so that's tip of the iceberg. It's still yet to kind of fully take full fruition, but that's one example of a number of others that are yet to go into law, of regulations that are putting some pressure on the actual employer themselves to make sure that their use of a system is kind of fair and non-discriminatory.
Can vendors like audit themselves or not really?
Yeah, they often do, particularly the more large and sophisticated ones. So they will do internal, like any good development team, they're testing as they go, as they develop a solution, partly for it to be actually like accurate and good, but also for ethical things like bias. So we see that teams do that. However, sadly, that doesn't go the full distance to solve the sort of trust gap between the platform doing all this and then the customer, being concerned and asking for evidence, and the regulator as well, because there's obviously incentives there that are not fully aligned. So that's leading to third party. One of the things that we bring in is a third party, more impartial perspective to bridge that trust gap. That someone else has had a look at this in a form of assurance and found it to be X, Y, Z, and hopefully compliant and fair at the end.
Yeah, so like marking your own homework is no bueno, right? So this is why third-party penetration testing type of services and softwares exist, I guess. So
Right.
this is the type of thing that Warden AI does. Tell us a bit more precisely what Warden AI does.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah. So we basically help HR tech platforms demonstrate compliance with these emerging regulations and demonstrate that their AI is fair and trustworthy to use and overcome those concerns from their customers, kind of passing that on. So what we do that through our AI assurance platform, which integrates into an AI system. There's a light integration version and there's like a more advanced full API version, and essentially performs continuous auditing. Right, so we're tech-led. We'll continuously test and monitor the AI system for risks, particularly bias and fairness, but also robustness and explainability to some extent, and then kind of present the outcomes of that onto dashboards and reports that we update in real time. And those can be shared as publicly or not as the platform wants to with their stakeholders, whether that's the prospect, the customers, regulators, whomever our internal teams, who they want to share this with. And crucially, all governed by a third party that's doing this. It's not just internal tooling that they have. So that's the core of what we do. Could go into more technical detail about the nature of that testing and monitoring and everything. But maybe that's a bit too much detail, but can happily add on
bit
more if
much for me
interested.
to bit much for me to be honest. But I'll tell you what, the issue is a really hot one. It's really interesting that organizations like yours are needed today. And Jeff, like all the best with it. I'm sure you're going to be successful. And thanks for giving me a bit of time to tell me more.
Great. Thanks, Adam. Good to chat.